Hey everyone, it's Peter Schiff. This is Tuesday, November 10th, 2009. Very quiet day in the markets today. The Dow eked out about a 20-point gain. Gold was up a couple of dollars. Dollar drifted a bit lower today. I think some of the bigger news is on the political scene. Our friend Chris Dodd, and my potential rival in the 2010 senatorial race, was very busy on Capitol Hill writing more legislation and doing more damage to the economy. First of all, his financial oversight or overhaul package that he's drafted, he's creating four new federal agencies. As if we didn't have enough agencies and regulation, he wants four new layers of bureaucracy to theoretically protect the public from the dangers and the problems that he and his buddies created. You know, he's acting like he's riding to the rescue here. You know, Chris Dodd to the rescue to save the country from all the evils and the bad doings of Wall Street and the banks, as if he had nothing to do with it. He was instrumental. He was leading the charge himself. He was one of the most culpable of the senators chairing the Senate Banking Commission and, you know, being the number one protector and benefactor for Freddie and Fannie. So it's his fault. He's the one that helped create these problems, and to pretend that he's here to solve them again, it's like he lit this massive fire, and he's claiming that he's the one that's supposed to be putting it out. But one of the new agencies that he's creating is a Consumer Financial Protection Agency. You know, we need protection from Chris Dodd. We need protection from government. There's plenty of protection in the market. We don't need more government protection because nobody gets protected. And of course, all these new regulations that are theoretically aimed at the big companies that are too big to fail, that wouldn't even exist if the government hadn't bailed them out in the first place. And of course, the only reason they got too big to fail was because of that perception, because of a favorable access to credit based on the idea that there was some kind of Greenspan put or government put. And now, of course, that we've cemented that too big to fail doctrine, these companies are getting even bigger. But whenever these big Wall Street firms do something bad and there's a regulatory response, the regulation never doesn't really hit the big firms. They pay for the fees, but no big deal. They've got the economies of scale. They can afford to comply with the regulation. What I'm afraid is all these new agencies are going to start writing regulations that are going to disproportionately hit the smaller firms, like my firm, firms smaller than mine or even somewhat larger. But this is where it hurts. And then what happens is they raise the regulatory hurdle or the bar. They make it more expensive to comply with rules and regulations from one agency after another. And the effect of that is that smaller firms either never get started or they close their doors. They sell out to the bigger firms because they can't compete. So all of this plays in to the very large financial entities that were, you know, helped cause the problem, that took all that cheap money provided by the Federal Reserve, that use the protection of people like Chris Dodd to make all this money, and now they benefit from all these bailouts, and now they benefit from the new rules and regulations that hurt their smaller competitors and put them in a position to make even more money. You know, the same thing happened. I operate Euro Pacific Capital in the brokerage industry. After the stock market bubble burst, 1999-2000, there was a whole slew of new regulations, Sarbanes-Oxley. There were some scandals that happened for some of the large firms with mutual fund pricing. All these new rules and regulations hit me very hard. Then when September 11th hit and we got the Patriot Act, and of course we got the anti-money laundering laws, it is layered. That's the most expensive legislation I think ever imposed on the financial services industry. It cost me a fortune. And, you know, I don't believe, I started my company really in 1996. And there's no way, if the regulations that are in place today existed back then, it is completely impossible. There is no way, as a one-man broker, I ever could have started my firm. And so I don't think people in my situation who are trying to start firms today, it's going to be completely impossible, because in order to afford that massive amount of money that you have to waste complying with government education, Nobody could do it. It wouldn't make any sense. You would just stay at a larger firm. And I think that's what these rules and regulations are going to accomplish. When you empower four brand new federal agencies, four new bureaucracies and little fiefdoms, you have no idea what's coming down the line. Now, of course, one of the good things I think that Dodd's legislation does do is take some power away from the Federal Reserve. But unfortunately, it entrusts it in these other agencies that might abuse it even more because it'll be even more politicized than it was before. And proof that Chris Dodd doesn't know a thing about economics or about moral hazard or about human behavior. On a totally unrelated note, he is introducing a bill to mandate paid sick leave for 5 days for anybody who gets the H1N1 virus. Now, it applies to companies that don't already offer sick leave, and I think they have to have more than 15 employees. But is he completely brain dead? I mean, imagine what's going to happen if all of a sudden the government passed a law that says if you work at a company that has no sick leave policy, if for some reason you happen to come down with H1N1, you're going to get 5 days paid leave. You know what's going to happen? It's going to be an epidemic. I mean, a massive outbreak of H1N1. Everybody who works for these companies, they're going to wake up one morning, they're going to call up their employer, and I don't feel well today. I got the H1N1. I'm throwing up. I'm sneezing. I'll see you in 5 days. By the way, here's where to send my check. I mean, does he not understand human nature? I mean, if you give people 5 days off with pay, and all they got to do is call in sick, they're calling in sick. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure this out. Look, none of this is the government's business. Whether or not there's going to be a sick leave or not is between the employee and an employer in their negotiation of their wages. We don't need the government. But Chris Dodd, he's running for re-election. He wants to be Santa Claus. He wants people to think, I got 5 days off to take a vacation thanks to Chris Dodd. That's what he wants to do. He wants to pretend he's there to dole out favors and force employers to pay sick leave to people who probably aren't even sick and are going to take a 5-day vacation with pay on Chris Dodd. But of course, it's not on Chris Dodd because he doesn't have any money. It's on all of us. It's on taxpayers. It's on small business who are going to get hit with this tax. And at a time when unemployment is already at 10.2% or 17.5% if you use the real numbers, we don't want to burden our small businesses with having to give paid vacations to employees who call in sick to take advantage of this government program. Anyway, that's it for today. I got another political event tonight. I think last night went well in Reading. I'll be in Weston tonight at 8 o'clock. Tomorrow is Veterans Day. Have a great Veterans Day. I'm going to be at a local parade here in Westport honoring veterans. And then I have another function, I think, tomorrow night. I probably won't be able to host the radio show Wall Street Unspun. I might be able to get part of it in, but if I'm not there, I'll have a great guest host from Europe Pacific Capital lined up. So make sure and tune in and support who's ever there. So long for now.